Spend a little bit more time getting into this. I want to particularly talk about how you have just seen sentences where when we became short, we became clearer, right? It was easier to understand our sentence when we removed the extra words. So there's a relationship between being short and being clear. But there's another relationship between being clear and being short. You see, when we take the time to find a clear, precise word, we don't need to write a sentence explaining that word. That word has a sentence inside of it, if you understand what I mean. You see, English is a very special language. It's different from other languages. For example, I'm learning Chinese right now. 现在我的中文一点点不好，真的，可是越来越好。I'll tell you my problem. I tell you my problem learning Chinese is that sometimes in Chinese, one Chinese word can have more than one English meaning, okay? So, for example, when I type the Chinese word into my English-Chinese dictionary, I will get maybe 5 English words with the same Chinese word meaning. My students do this as well when they're writing their paper. They will get a short word, longer word, really, really long word. Unfortunately, sometimes they just copy and paste the really, really long one in because it's high quality. But this is not our reason for choosing a word. You see, each of those words has a very precise application, a very precise shade or color of meaning. And by choosing that one word, we don't have to explain ourselves with one or two more sentences, because that word will work harder for us, if you understand what I mean, because it's more precise, it's clearer. So we're very concerned as medical writers, not only that we are short, but that we are clear so we can be short. Because when we take the time to identify that clear word, we save ourselves so much more space, extra write, extra explanation we don't have to do. I want to give you examples first of phrases that we can reduce, dead wood that we can cut out, and second, better, clearer words we can use. Fuzzy words we should avoid, and clearer words we can replace those with. We don't say the question as to, we would prefer to say whether. Because same meaning and shorter is always better if the meaning stays the same. Provided that, if. Provided actually has multiple meanings and could be confusing. If has only one meaning. My student was complaining though the other day. He said, "Teacher, I don't like this word." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "It's only 2 letters. It's low quality." He said, "Provided that is higher quality." And I said, "Stop worrying about your quality. Start worrying about your meaning, right? We don't use a big word just because it's big. We only use it if it would be more clear. And if a short word is clear, we use the short word, don't we? In view of the fact that, better, because. Let me make a quick point about this. Because and since, according to AMA, no longer mean the same thing. They're very insistent on this point. The reason AMA doesn't like since is because since has the double meaning of cause or time. And if you imagine this sentence, for example, he wanted to be a doctor since he was 6 years old. I don't know if it's because he's 6 years old or since the time when he was 6 years old. You see the possible double meaning. So now AMA has the new rule. Only use because for cause and only use since for time. I think it's a good rule for every domain, but medicine is particularly conscious about this. Notwithstanding the fact that, better, although. Man is capable of, if you're capable of doing something, you can do it. In case. This is a problem because case has so many meanings. We can have medical case, law case, suit case. In case can mean if, in no case, never, in all cases, always. You see, the more we use the word, the less we like to use the word because it's fuzzy, right? My reader is forced to guess which of the meanings I'm using. So we like words with a single strong meaning, like if, instead of in case here. In this case, here. In some cases, occasionally. In no case, never. In all cases, always. You see, case has many meanings, but always, always means always. It's a good word. We would prefer to use it. In most cases, generally. In many cases, often. In a number of. Better, several, or many. Just because number is fuzzy and these are out. So again, it's fuzzy and double meaning. We don't like it. Better, implement, just to start to do something. Execute, to finish doing something. Promulgate, promote the idea of something. Or maybe you do something in your laboratory, like an experiment. Conduct. All of these are clearer verbs than the word carry out. Change. I always challenge students about this one because we have many better words than change in English. I want to know how it changed. Did it change to match the environment? We could say adapt. Did it change over a long time? Evolve. Did it continue to change? Vary. Was it a mechanical change? Adjust. You see, the word change by itself doesn't really tell me what's going on, so I would want to use, again, these are a few. With my students, we counted 30 words one day that mean change, and we will use the better one, the better one. Consider, were you thinking about a number or value, evaluate, or non-numerical, assess? Correct, incorrect. As researchers, we cannot say what is correct or incorrect, or what is right or what is wrong. This is only something God can say, because what is right today could be wrong tomorrow. Science moves quickly. The only thing we could say is what we can measure in our experiment. It is precise, imprecise, valid, invalid, accurate, inaccurate. These are things that we could say with authority. But right and wrong, correct, incorrect? No. Find. How did you find it? Did you find it and take it home? Obtain. Did you find it from your model? Derive. Did you find it in a physical place? Locate. Or did you find it and know its name? Identify. Again, all of these clearer than just the word find by itself. Help. What's the relationship between the helper and the helpee? Assist. He's working for me. Direct. I'm working for him. Facilitate. I'm giving you resources that you need. Guide. I'm giving advice. Or we also say aid in medicine, the emergency help, like first aid, right? Or in economics, foreign aid, the aid we need to survive. Important. How is it important? Will you die if you don't have it? Well, we could say it's vital, necessary for life. Or do you want to say that you'll be unable to complete your project or complete your task if you don't have it? Essential, critical, crucial. Or do you want to say that it is highly related but not essential? If you don't have it, you're still okay. Then we can say relevant or pertinent. Or do you want to say it is important statistically? P-value less than 0.05. What could we say for statistical importance? Significant. And I never let students use that word only to mean important, because it's the only word we have for our p-value. And if we use that word every time we mean important, how can we talk about our statistical significance in our method section? We will reserve this word for that part of our paper. Let's see, I missed, yeah. Not little or few. Better, if you're talking about length, say slightly. Time, seldom. Volume, negligibly. Problem. Where did the problem come from? Obstacle means there's a problem there, but I think I can overcome it. Limitation. Not enough of something. Drawback means that the disadvantage. Shortcoming. Not enough motivation. Again, all of these clearer than problem. Way. Highway, freeway, or Chinese telephone greeting. Way. Better, when you're talking about your paper, the way you solved your problem, method, means, approach, strategy. Figure out. Figure has the double meaning of number, right? It also has a fuzzy meaning. I would prefer to say distinguished. See the small differences between two things. Differentiate. Emphasize the large differences between two things. Discriminate. See the difference between one and all the others. Identify, to know his name. Again, all of these will tell me more than figure out. Suitable, better, appropriate, or adequate. Enough. Enough for the situation, or suiting the situation. Tries. How hard did you try? Attempt, aim, aspire. You tell them, we have words for how very and how important something is. Highly, rather, quite, extremely. I'll tell you what I tell my students. Highly is too very, okay? Rather, 1. Quite, 0.5 very. Extremely is 3 very. So we wouldn't say very, very, very important. We would say extremely significant, right? We would say how very and how important what it is we're talking about. Whole. If you're talking about something physical, say complete, entire. But if you're talking about information, say comprehensive. Make clear. You can make the window clear, or you can make your meaning clear. If you're talking about your meaning, say clarify. All right? Clarify. That's for making the idea clear. Very quickly here, and I know I'm almost out of time, but I'll just take a couple minutes to talk about verb tense. Here's a reviewer. He says, your discussion section changes verb tense often. Sometimes you change several times within a sentence. It makes it difficult to understand what has been done and what you're still planning to do. Let's take a look at this problem. All studies described as using the X procedure are included in the analysis. This is from his method section. Can we say are included? No, you finished. They were included. You're not still doing it. So we will say table 1 shows, presents. We will use present tense when referring to figures, tables, or graphs, or chapters in our dissertation. Even the paper itself. If you have a sentence like, this paper presents, you'll use present tense with the document. It is good to be with you here today, bright and early in the morning, thank you, to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart, and that is how can we prepare our research papers to submit to a journal, and more importantly, how can we avoid those top English writing errors that editors and reviewers keep using to reject our good research papers. And this is a topic that I've been working on here in Taiwan for the last, well, it's 11 years now. At the medical school here at NTU, and also engineering school in Jiaoda and Tsinghua. Every week we work with PhD students to prepare their work to submit, and it breaks my heart when we work very hard at the research and then we are rejected only for poor English. And today I want to go through some of those errors that keep coming up over and over again in reviewer and editor comments about our work. I want to begin with this interesting statistic. This was the result of a study done in the US a few years ago, and the researchers asked the question, how likely is it that your paper will be accepted or rejected when you submit it to a journal? And here's the result of 400,000 papers they looked at, and they got an average, and here's their average. The chance that a typical paper of average quality will get a favorable recommendation from both referees is about 11%. Sometimes my students tell me, teacher, I'm just going to write my paper, send it away, and hope I get lucky. And I reminded them that we are not lucky. Our luck is very low. If we are only counting on good luck, we will be disappointed. We need more than good luck, we need a good plan. And that plan needs to help us avoid these common English writing errors that continue to influence whether we are accepted or not. Let me take a look, actually, what causes rejection of Taiwanese journal papers. We had a famous editor visit Jiaoda about 6 years ago. He was from the Journal of Retailing. I realize that's not your domain. This is the marketing domain. But it's number 3 in the marketing domain. It's a very good journal, and I was excited to have a real editor come to Taiwan, and I invited him to talk to my weekly technical writing class about publishing. And I asked him a question. I said, sir, why do you so often reject Taiwanese research papers. I said, I know many people, they tried to publish, go through them all today because I usually need more time for that, so I've modified it a little bit for you today to go over the top 3 in greater detail to really get these ones down, and they are the redundancy. That's number 1. Redundancy, what does that mean? It means using too many words to communicate my meaning. Writing and writing and saying nothing, you know, that's redundancy, and nobody appreciates that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. 13% verb tense. Oh, this is a big one. If I use the wrong verb tense, my reviewer doesn't know if I have finished it, if I'm still doing it, or if I'm only proposing it. And tense also influences whether something is a fact or something occurred or something is an implication, right? Tense is a very powerful tool, and if we use it wrong, we will give the wrong idea about our research and what has happened. I'm going to go through a little bit later today and give you some examples of that error and how we can correct it in our own writing. 16% passive voice errors. Active passive voice. I want to get into some detail about this with you today, and I've sort of customized it a bit for this group, and I'm going to give you a lot of examples from your medical journals regarding this active passive point specifically. We're going to see what does our editor want us to do regarding this active and passive voice. In fact, I'm going to start with that one, passive voice, because the other 2 are related directly to this one. Computer science, use active instead of passive voice and straightforward declarative sentences. The American Medical Association, here's our style guide, they're pretty specific about this. They say, in general, authors should use the active voice, except in instances in which the author is unknown. When I have no subject, okay? The ball was hit. I don't know who hit the ball. So passive would be fine here, according to AMA. Or 2, or the interest focuses on what is acted upon. When I don't care about the subject. So when I don't know and when I don't care, I can use the passive voice. Now, when do we not care about the subject of the sentence? Well, this is tricky. But in modern medical writing today, some journals still don't like us to put we and never I, right? We never put I, but they don't even like us to use we too much in the method section of our paper. For example, if I write the method section of my paper using the active voice, then every sentence will be, we did this and we did that and we did something else. It overemphasizes myself, and my reviewer may make a comment like this. He may say, the author sounds egocentric, or something like that. We don't want to sound proud or arrogant, so to avoid overemphasizing ourselves in our method section, we will frequently use passive voice here. Now this is changing, and this is, you know, the reason why methods would be passive voice is everyone knows you are the subject of your sentence. You are doing your own method, so we don't have to remind them every sentence that we are the one doing it. In other parts, let me move on to another error. Deleting redundancy and extra words. This is a big complaint from reviewers and something that we are very concerned about in our own writing. Here's a reviewer complaining, the whole paper should be shorter. I am confident that you could say everything you need to in 30% less space. You know how painful it is to get this comment? Oh, when you've been working on a paper for 2 years and then it comes back and they want you to cut out 30% of your baby, and oh, it's so painful. To avoid getting this comment, we can first of all cut out this redundancy. And let me just say something quickly too. Nobody likes long papers. Nobody. Editors don't like long papers. They would rather have 2 new authors than 1 long one. Journals don't like long papers because it's more expensive to publish a longer paper than a shorter paper. And reviewers don't like long papers because it takes longer to read and to review a long paper than a short paper. And Honestly, I believe this is why we sometimes have the long review times. Because the reviewer will get our paper, and he will say, oh my goodness, 40 pages, and heavy Taiwanese English. He says, it's too late tonight, and I'm just too young to die. I will do this tomorrow. He will put it away in his drawer. He will close the drawer. He will forget about this paper for 6 months. Finally, the editor will call him and say, where's the paper? He'll say, I'm sorry, reject. Oh. Basically, the longer our paper becomes, the more difficult it is to get a fast review and quick acceptance. So we like short papers for many reasons, especially if our paper is long simply because of redundancy. Now, reviewers have a very special word they use when they talk about this problem. They call this problem dead wood. They say, there's a lot of dead wood in your paper. And what do they mean, dead wood? What is dead wood? Dead wood is actually a word that comes from biology. I remember in the university when I was studying, my job was to care for our university apple farm. We had an apple orchard, and I had to walk between the apple trees. And I had to look for and identify dead wood. Now, what is dead wood? Dead wood is when we have an apple tree. It's strong, it's healthy, it's growing. But then one day, that apple tree will send out a branch. And then the branch will die, but still stay connected to the tree. That's called dead wood. Every year, that dead wood will continue to take the energy from the tree, but will contribute no value back to the tree, right? No leaves and no little red apples. So the bigger the tree becomes, the smaller the apples will be, and the more difficult to pick them because the tree is so large. So what does the apple farmer do? He has to cut out all the dead wood so that the energy of that tree goes into producing the big, beautiful apples that we can easily pick. Now, reviewers say this about our papers. They say, there's a lot of dead wood in your paper. And what do they mean? They mean that there are sentences or phrases that are not adding value, but are taking value away. They're talking about redundancy. And in order to make our paper healthy, in order to make our value known, we have to cut out all of that extra words and phrases so that all of the power of our paper is going into our ideas, clearly showing our ideas. Let's take a look at a sentence with dead wood. It may be said that there are not fewer than one explanation which could explain this result. Oh. First of all, it may be said that. If you can say something, you don't need to say that you can say it. You can just say it, right? You can just cut that. There are several possible explanations for this result. We are shorter and we are clearer because we have taken out our dead wood. It is the systems analyst who makes a determination of the question as to whether the program should be implemented. Now, my student has so much dead wood in here that I'm having a hard time understanding his meaning. Now, we like to start with our subject. Remember that from active voice? So, the systems analyst, that's our subject. It is, we can take that right out. The systems analyst, we don't need the pronoun, makes a determination, we could just say determines, of the question as to, that's garbage, we can take that out, whether to implement the program. The systems analyst determines whether to implement the program. We are shorter, we are clearer, because we are removing that redundancy, that dead wood that editors and reviewers complain about. Let's operate equipment so that the user can interact with the system. Systems can incorporate equipment so that the user can interact with the system. Now, sometimes students get concerned here, and they say, teacher, no, no, no. You repeated can twice. And they say, there's an English rule that says we cannot repeat the same word twice in a sentence. There's no rule like that. We can repeat the same word twice, no problem, especially a good word like can. There's no English rule telling us that we can't. I've never seen an editor or reviewer comment saying you repeated the same word twice. Never. I have many comments about this. This is a killer problem. This is not a problem. It's certainly not something we should worry about. Sometimes students spend so much time trying not to reuse the same good word twice that they use another word that's totally wrong and really hurt themselves. This, again, we're not writing to impress people with how many words we know. We're writing to express our work, our results. And a good word like can, we can repeat it. We could repeat it. Let's review our two concerns as technical medical writer. First, to be short. Short is all